You'll wear this ring, you'll stand beside me at that dinner, and you'll smile like you mean it, Lucas Blackstone said, his voice rough as gravel. Anna Whitmore stared at the gold band in his calloused palm, her stomach twisting. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You want me to pretend to be your wife?" His jaw tightened. "Pretend, for now. The railroad men arrive tomorrow. They won't negotiate with a bachelor they think they can manipulate." Her fingers trembled as she reached for the ring. "And after?" His dark eyes met hers, something dangerous flickering there. "After, you walk away with enough money to start over. That's the deal." But when his hand closed over hers, neither of them could predict what that touch would set in motion. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and follow this story to the very end. Comment below with your city so I can see how far our story has traveled. Anna had been walking for 3 days when she first saw Blackstone Ranch rising from the Montana plains like a fortress against the sky. Her boots were split at the seams, her dress stained with road dust, and her last meal had been a crust of bread shared with a farmer's wife 2 towns back. She'd heard there might be work here, sewing, mending, anything that didn't require the strength her hollow stomach no longer possessed. The ranch house loomed larger as she approached, its dark timber and stone speaking of money, power, permanence. Things she'd never known. Things she'd stopped dreaming about after her father's debts had swallowed their Philadelphia home and left her mother dead from the shame of it all. She knocked. The sound seemed to disappear into the vast silence of the place. The door swung open, and Lucas Blackstone filled the frame. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes the color of a winter storm, and a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile years ago. He studied her with an intensity that made her want to step back. But pride kept her spine straight. "I'm here about work," she said. "I can sew, cook, clean. You married?" The question hit her like a slap. "No." "Family? Anyone expecting you somewhere?" "No one." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite satisfaction, but close. "Come inside." She followed him into a parlor that screamed of wealth. Thick rugs, furniture that looked imported, a fireplace large enough to stand in. But there was no warmth to any of it. No photographs, no personal touches, just expensive emptiness. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a leather chair. She sat, her back rigid, hands folded in her lap to hide their shaking. Lucas didn't sit. He paced, and she watched him move like a caged animal, all restless power and barely contained tension. "I have a problem," he finally said. "The Montana Central Railroad wants my land. Not to buy it, to take it. They've convinced some territorial judge that my water rights are disputed, that my claims aren't valid. It's all lies, but lies backed by enough money to make them true." Anna listened, confusion growing. "I'm sorry, Mr. Blackstone, but I don't see what this has to do with—" "They think I'm weak because I'm alone," he cut in. "A bachelor, running an empire. No heirs, no stability. They think they can wait me out, pressure me, isolate me, until I have no choice but to sell." He stopped pacing, turned to face her fully. "They're coming here tomorrow. A dinner meeting, and I need them to see something different." The air in the room seemed to thicken. "I need a wife," he said flatly. "Not a real one, just the appearance of one. Someone to stand beside me, smile at the right moments, make them think I'm settled, stable, building something permanent that can't easily destroy." Anna's breath caught. "You're asking me to—" "Pretend. For 3 months, maybe 4. Long enough to finalize some alternative deals I'm working on, consolidate my legal position. After that, we stage a quiet separation. You leave with $10,000 and a letter of reference that'll open any door you want." $10,000. The number was impossible, Obscene. Enough to buy a house, start a business, live for years without worry. Why me? The question escaped before she could stop it. Because you're desperate enough to say yes, and smart enough to play the part convincingly. Because you have no connections here to complicate things. And because... He paused, something flickering across his face. Because you look like someone who's survived things. That's what I need. Not some fragile society girl who'll crumble under pressure. She should have been offended. Instead, she felt something closer to recognition. What exactly would this arrangement entail? You live here. Learn enough about me and this ranch to answer basic questions, attend social functions, play the devoted wife. That's it. That's it? She didn't believe him. His jaw tightened. I'm not asking you to share my bed, if that's what you're worried about. Separate rooms. This is business. And when people ask how we met, our courtship, we'll create a story. Something simple. Believable. Anna looked down at her worn hands, at the calluses and scars from years of hard labor. She thought of her empty pockets, her uncertain future, the gnawing fear that had become her constant companion. I want half the money up front, she heard herself say. No, then a quarter, and a contract, in writing, specifying everything you've promised. For the first time, something like respect flickered in his eyes. 2,000 up front, the rest when the arrangement ends. And yes, a contract. She stood, walked to where he stood, and extended her hand. Then we have a deal, Mr. Blackstone. His hand engulfed hers, warm and rough and impossibly strong. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her, something that felt dangerous and electric. Lucas, he said quietly, if you're going to be my wife, you should use my name. That night, Anna lay in a bedroom larger than any place she'd ever lived, staring at the ceiling and wondering what she'd just agreed to. The bed was soft, the sheets clean, the room warm. Luxury she'd almost forgotten existed. But sleep wouldn't come. Down the hall, she could hear Lucas moving around, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. She wondered if he was having second thoughts, if he was questioning his choice of a road-worn seamstress over someone more refined, more suitable. A knock at her door made her sit up. Anna? His voice was muffled through the wood. You awake? Yes. We need to talk through our story. The railroad men arrive at noon tomorrow. She wrapped a robe around herself and opened the door. He stood there, still fully dressed, his face shadowed and tired. Now? Would you rather stumble through it in front of witnesses? He had a point. She gestured him in, suddenly aware of how intimate this felt. Him in her bedroom, both of them alone in the vast house. He sat in the chair by the window, maintaining careful distance. We met 6 months ago in Denver. You were visiting an aunt. I was there on business. We corresponded. I courted you properly. We married quietly 3 weeks ago because you had no family to make a fuss over a big wedding. And I came from Philadelphia originally? No, better if you're from somewhere west, somewhere harder to verify. Let's say California. Your parents died young. You were raised by an aunt who recently passed. That's why you have no family connections. Anna nodded slowly. What does your wife love about you? The question seemed to catch him off guard. What? If someone asks me what drew me to you, what should I say? Women talk about these things. I need to sound convincing. He was silent for a long moment. Say I was persistent, that I didn't give up when you initially refused my attention, that I... He stopped, seeming to struggle. That I made you feel safe. Something in his voice made her look at him more closely. In the lamplight, he looked younger, more vulnerable. And what do you love about me? She asked quietly. Your strength, your independence, The way you don't need me, but chose me anyway." The words came easier now, like he was building a character, creating fiction. "Say I appreciate your practical nature, your lack of pretense." Those sound like real qualities someone might actually value. That's the point. The best lies are built on truth. They spent 2 hours crafting their story, filling in details, practicing responses. By the time Lucas stood to leave, Anna's head was spinning with false memories and invented history. At the door, he paused. "Tomorrow will be difficult. These men are sharks. They'll look for weaknesses, inconsistencies. You'll need to be perfect." "I will be." "Anna." He turned back, his expression serious. "If at any point this becomes too much, if you want out, just say so. I'll honor our contract regardless." The offer surprised her. "Why would you do that?" "Because I'm asking you to lie for me, but I won't lie to you. That's the one promise I can make." After he left, Anna sat on the bed, her heart racing. She'd agreed to play a part, to pretend at intimacy with a stranger. But there was something about Lucas Blackstone, something in the way he carried his loneliness like a weight, the way his eyes held shadows of old pain, that made her think this arrangement might be more complicated than either of them anticipated. The railroad men arrived precisely at noon, 3 of them in expensive suits and cold smiles. Charles Drummond led the group, a silver-haired man with eyes like chips of ice. His associates, Bennett and Shaw, flanked him like well-dressed wolves. Anna stood beside Lucas in the foyer, her hand resting on his arm, wearing a dress he'd had delivered that morning. Deep blue silk that fit perfectly, that made her look like someone who belonged in this house. "Gentlemen," Lucas said, his voice steady and controlled, "welcome to Blackstone Ranch. May I introduce my wife, Anna." She watched Drummond's eyes narrow, saw the quick glance he exchanged with Bennett. They hadn't expected this. "Mrs. Blackstone," Drummond said, taking her hand and bowing over it. "What a delightful surprise. Lucas has been quite secretive about his personal life." "We preferred to keep things private," Anna replied, her voice calm despite her racing pulse. "I'm sure you understand." "Of course. And how did you two meet?" Here it was, the first test. "Denver," she said, smiling up at Lucas. 6 months ago. I was visiting family. He was there on business. He quite literally swept me off my feet. I was carrying packages, wasn't watching where I was going, and we collided on the street." Lucas picked up the thread smoothly. "I thought she was going to slap me. Instead, she laughed. I knew right then I had to see her again." The lie came out so naturally, so warmly, that for a moment Anna almost believed it herself. Dinner was an elegant torture. Cook had prepared a feast: roasted beef, fresh vegetables, wine from Lucas's cellar. Anna played her part flawlessly, laughing at appropriate moments, asking intelligent questions, her hand occasionally finding Lucas's arm in gestures of casual affection. But underneath the performance, she felt Drummond watching, assessing, looking for cracks. "Tell me, Mrs. Blackstone," he said during the main course, "do you find Montana to your liking? It must be quite a change from California." Anna didn't miss a beat. "It's different, certainly, but I've always preferred open spaces to crowded cities. There's something honest about this land." "Honest," Drummond repeated, his smile not reaching his eyes. "An interesting choice of words." Lucas's hand found hers under the table, squeezed once. A warning or reassurance, she couldn't tell. "My wife has a poet's soul," Lucas said. "It's one of the things I love about her." The word love hung in the air, and Anna felt something shift in the room's temperature. After dinner, the men retired to Lucas's study for business. Anna was expected to withdraw, the proper role for a wife. But as she stood to leave, Drummond spoke. "Actually, Mrs. Blackstone, I'd love to hear your thoughts on your husband's business dealings. After all, this ranch will be your home, your legacy." It was a trap. Anna could feel it. Lucas tensed beside her. "My wife doesn't concern herself with—" "On the contrary," Anna interrupted smoothly. "I'm very interested in the ranch's future. After all, we're planning to build something lasting here." She let her hand drift to her stomach in a subtle gesture, saw Drummond's eyes follow the movement, saw him make the calculation. She hadn't confirmed anything, hadn't said the word, but the implication hung there, heavy and deliberate. Lucas's fingers tightened on his glass. In the study, Drummond laid out his proposal. Sell the disputed water rights to Montana Central. Accept a generous payment. Avoid a lengthy legal battle. "The amount is insulting," Lucas said flatly. "Those rights are worth 10 times what you're offering." "Perhaps, but legal fees can be expensive, uncertain. And you have a family to think about now." Drummond's smile was predatory. "Children change a man's priorities, I've found." Anna felt Lucas go still beside her, and she knew they were at a critical moment. "My husband's priorities haven't changed," she said quietly. "He's always been a man who fights for what's right, who doesn't back down from bullies. It's one of the reasons I married him." She met Drummond's gaze directly. "And any children we have will inherit that same strength, that same refusal to be intimidated." The silence that followed was electric. Drummond leaned back, reassessing. "You're quite spirited, Mrs. Blackstone." "I'm loyal to my husband and our future. If you see that as spirited, so be it." Bennett and Shaw exchanged glances. Drummond's jaw tightened. "We'll revisit this conversation in a few weeks," he finally said, standing. "Give you both time to reconsider." After they left, Anna found herself alone with Lucas in the study. The performance was over, the audience gone, and the silence between them felt heavy with unspoken things. "You handled that brilliantly," Lucas said finally. "The way you implied—" "I know what I implied." Anna's hands were shaking now that it was over. "Was it too much?" "It was perfect. You bought us time." He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one. "You're a natural at this." She took a sip, the burn welcome. "Don't mistake desperation for talent, Lucas. I'm not proud of how easily the lies came. They weren't all lies, though, were they?" He looked at her intently. "The part about me being worth fighting for. That was the role, what I was supposed to say. Was it?" The question hung between them, dangerous and complicated. Anna set down her glass. "I should retire. It's been a long day." "Anna, good night, Lucas." She left before he could say whatever was in his eyes, before she could examine too closely why her heart was racing, why his nearness made her skin warm, why the pretend intimacy of the evening had started to feel less like acting and more like something she couldn't name. In her room, she undressed slowly, her mind replaying every moment of the dinner. The way Lucas had looked at her when she defended him, the weight of his hand in hers, the almost believable tenderness in his voice when he'd called her his wife. This was dangerous. She was supposed to play a part, collect her money, and leave. Getting emotionally tangled with Lucas Blackstone was not part of the arrangement. But as she lay in bed, she couldn't stop thinking about the loneliness she'd seen in his eyes, the way it mirrored her own. 3 weeks passed in the strange dance of intimacy and distance. They played their parts perfectly in public, the devoted couple, building their empire together. In private, they maintained careful boundaries, separate rooms, formal politeness. But something was shifting. Lucas found himself watching Anna when she didn't know he was looking. The way she moved through his house like she belonged there. The way she hummed while working in the garden she'd started. The way she'd transformed the cold, empty rooms into something that almost felt like a home. And Anna caught herself thinking about Lucas at odd moments, wondering what had made him so isolated, so wary of connection, wanting to know the man beneath the armor he wore so carefully. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening. Anna was in the library reading when Lucas entered. He'd been out checking the northern fence line, and he looked exhausted, frustrated. "Drummond's men have been surveying my land," he said without preamble. "Taking measurements, marking boundaries. They're preparing for a legal challenge." "Can they do that?" "They think they can." He poured himself a drink, downed it in one swallow. "I've got lawyers working on it, but the territorial courts are corrupt. Money talks, and Drummond has plenty of it." Anna set down her book. "What do you need?" "I need—" He stopped, looked at her, really looked at her. "I don't know anymore." The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. "Talk to me," she said quietly. "Not as your fake wife, just talk to me." So he did. He told her about building this ranch from nothing, about the years of back-breaking work, the loneliness of success, the walls he'd built to protect himself from a world that had taught him trust was weakness. And Anna found herself talking too, about Philadelphia, about watching her father drink himself to death over debts, about her mother's shame, about the years of struggling to survive in a world that had no patience for poor women with no protection. They talked until the fire burned low, until the night pressed against the windows, until the careful distance between them felt like a lie more profound than the marriage they were faking. "I should go to bed," Anna finally said, but she didn't move. Neither did Lucas. Anna. Her name on his lips sounded different than it ever had before. "This arrangement we made." A knock at the door shattered the moment. Lucas cursed, strode to the door. His ranch foreman stood there, face grim. "Boss, we got trouble. The creek's been dammed upstream. Someone's cut off our water supply." Lucas's expression went cold and dangerous. "Drummond. Has to be. Happened sometime in the last few hours." Anna watched Lucas transform from the vulnerable man who'd been sharing his history to the steel-eyed rancher who'd fight for every inch of his land. "Get the men together," he ordered. "We ride out at first light to tear down whatever they've built." After the foreman left, Lucas turned back to Anna. "I'm sorry. We'll have to continue this conversation another time." "Be careful," she said, surprising herself with the intensity of her concern. "I will." He paused at the door. "Anna, what you said about me being worth fighting for. I need you to know. It meant something, even if it was just part of the role." Then he was gone, and Anna was left alone with a truth she could no longer deny. This wasn't pretend anymore. Not for her. And she suspected not for him either. And that realization terrified her more than any railroad tycoon ever could. Anna didn't sleep that night, listening for the sound of horses returning, straining to hear any sign that Lucas and his men were safe. When dawn broke gray and cold, she dressed quickly and went downstairs to find Cook already preparing food for the men. The older woman's face was tight with worry. "They haven't come back yet?" Anna asked. "No, ma'am, and that's not like Mr. Blackstone. He's always back before sunrise when there's trouble." Anna's stomach nodded. "How far upstream is the dam?" "About 5 miles, through rough country." Cook paused. "You really care about him, don't you?" The question caught Anna off guard. "I'm his wife. Of course I care." "That's not what I asked." Before Anna could respond, the sound of galloping horses shattered the morning quiet. She ran to the door, heart pounding, and saw Lucas dismounting, his face dark with fury. Blood streaked his shirt sleeve. "You're hurt," she said, rushing to him. "It's nothing." But he swayed slightly, and she caught his arm. "Inside, now!" He didn't argue, which told her more than words could about how bad it actually was. In the kitchen, she cut away his shirt sleeve to reveal a deep gash running from shoulder to elbow. "What happened?" The dam wasn't just sticks and mud. It was professional work, reinforced with steel. We started tearing it down, and Drummond's men showed up. Said we were destroying railroad property on disputed land. "They did this?" Anna's hands shook as she cleaned the wound. "One of them had a knife. Thought he could intimidate me." Lucas's jaw clenched. He was wrong. "You could have been killed." But I wasn't. He looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his eyes made her breath catch. "You were worried about me." "Of course I was worried. Don't be stupid." "Anna." "Hold still. This needs stitches." She'd learned basic wound care during the lean years, when doctors were a luxury she couldn't afford. Her hands were steadier now, focused on the task. Lucas watched her work, his gaze intense. "You're good at this," he said quietly. "I've had practice." "On yourself?" She didn't answer, but her silence was answer enough. His good hand covered hers, stopping her mid-stitch. "Who hurt you?" "That's not relevant." "Tell me." "Why? So you can add it to the story we tell people? Our tragic pasts that brought us together?" "No." His grip tightened. "Because I want to know. Because this stopped being just a business arrangement the moment you defended me to Drummond, and we both know it." Anna pulled her hand away, finished the last stitch. "You're being ridiculous. You lost blood. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking clearly for the first time in years." He stood, towering over her. "You feel it too. Don't lie to me, Anna. We've told enough lies to everyone else. What I feel doesn't matter. We have a contract. 4 months, then I leave with my money and we both move on." "And if I don't want you to leave?" The words hung between them, dangerous and raw. "Don't," Anna whispered. "Don't say things you don't mean just because you're grateful I stitched you up." "Grateful?" He laughed, the sound bitter. "You think that's what this is?" "I think you're a man who's been alone too long, and I'm convenient. But I won't be your real wife, Lucas. I can't." "Why not?" "Because I've spent my entire life being used by people who were supposed to protect me. My father used my mother's dowry to gamble. The men I worked for used my desperation to pay me half what I was worth. And I swore I'd never let anyone use me again." Her voice broke. "This arrangement works because it's honest. We both know what it is. But if you try to make it something real, you'll destroy me. And I won't let you." She left before he could see the tears, before she could admit that she was lying to both of them. 2 days later, legal papers arrived. Drummond was suing for the water rights, claiming Lucas had deliberately sabotaged railroad property. The trial date was set for 3 weeks away. Lucas spent hours in his study with lawyers, his mood growing darker by the day. Anna maintained her distance, playing the dutiful wife in public while keeping careful space between them in private. But the tension was suffocating. On the 3rd night, she found him in the library, surrounded by legal documents, a half-empty bottle of whiskey at his elbow. "You should eat something," she said. "I should burn this whole place down before I let Drummond take it." "That's the whiskey talking." "Is it?" He looked up at her, his eyes bloodshot and fierce. "I built this ranch with my bare hands. Every fence post, every building, every acre. And now some railroad bastard with dirty money and corrupt judges thinks he can just take it because I don't have the right connections." Anna sat down across from him. "What do the lawyers say?" "They say we'll probably lose. The judge is in Drummond's pocket. The witnesses are bought and paid for. Without proof that the land survey was fraudulent, we don't have a case. Then we find proof. How? The original survey records burned in a fire 5 years ago. Very convenient, don't you think? There has to be another copy. Someone, somewhere, has documentation. Lucas poured another drink. You sound like you actually care about this ranch. I care about you not losing everything you've worked for. Why? In a few weeks, you'll be gone. This won't be your problem anymore. The words stung more than they should have. Is that what you want? For me to stop caring? I want you to be honest. Do you want to leave? Anna stood, angry now. What kind of question is that? We had an agreement. Agreements can change. Not this one. Why are you so determined to run? He stood too, moving around the desk toward her. What are you so afraid of? I'm not afraid. Liar. He was close now, too close, and she could smell whiskey and leather and something uniquely him. You're terrified. Of this. Of us. There is no us. There's a contract and a lie and money changing hands. That's all. Then why are your hands shaking? She looked down, saw that he was right, and hated herself for it. You're drunk. Not drunk enough to stop wanting you. The confession hung in the air between them, electric and impossible. Lucas. He kissed her. For a moment, Anna froze, every instinct screaming at her to push him away, to maintain the boundaries that kept her safe. But then his hands tangled in her hair, gentle despite their strength, and she was kissing him back, tasting whiskey and desperation and something that felt terrifyingly like hope. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucas pressed his forehead to hers. Tell me you don't feel this, he said roughly. Tell me I'm alone in this, and I'll never touch you again. Anna's throat tightened. She wanted to lie, wanted to protect herself the way she'd learned to do, but she couldn't force the words out. I can't tell you that, she whispered. Then stay. Really stay. Not because of money or a contract, but because you want to. I don't know if I can. Why not? Because wanting things has only ever brought me pain. He pulled back, looked at her with such intensity it hurt. I'm not your father. I'm not the man who used you. I'm just a man who's been alone so long he forgot what it felt like to want someone until you walked through my door. You don't know me. Not really. The woman you think you want is someone I made up to play a part. I know you're strong enough to walk for days with torn boots and an empty stomach. I know you're clever enough to outwit railroad tycoons at dinner. I know you're brave enough to stitch a wound without flinching, and kind enough to care about an old man's ranch, even when you have every reason not to. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I know you're terrified of being hurt again, and I know you think leaving is the only way to stay safe. But I'm asking you to take a risk. On me. On us. Tears spilled down Anna's cheeks. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? Before she could answer, a crash from outside made them both jump. Lucas grabbed his rifle, moved to the window. Stay here, he ordered. But Anna followed him anyway, her heart pounding. Outside, 3 of the ranch hands had someone pinned to the ground. A young man, barely more than a boy, struggling against their grip. Found him trying to break into the barn, boss, one of the hands said. He had this. He held up a satchel. Inside were surveying tools and a leather-bound journal. Lucas grabbed the journal, flipped it open. His expression went from confusion to shock to cold fury in the space of a heartbeat. What is it? Anna asked. Survey notes. From the original land assessment, dated 1875. He looked at the boy. "Where did you get this?" The kid was terrified. Maybe 16, with Drummond's railroad insignia on his jacket. "I can't tell you. They'll kill me." "They'll kill you?" Lucas's voice was deadly quiet. "Son, you just broke into my property with stolen documents. I'm the one you need to worry about right now." "Lucas," Anna said quietly, seeing the fear in the boy's eyes. She knelt beside him. "What's your name?" "Tommy. Tommy Brennan." "Tommy, I'm Anna. Why did you bring these documents here?" The boy's lip trembled. "Because what they're doing is wrong. My pa worked this land before Mr. Blackstone bought it. Fair and square. But Mr. Drummond, he's been changing records, bribing officials. He told me to alter the survey maps, make it look like the water rights were never properly transferred. And you didn't want to do it," Anna said gently. "I did it," Tommy said miserably. "I'm not brave like you think. But then I heard them talking about framing Mr. Blackstone for assault, maybe even murder. They were going to plant evidence at the dam site, make it look like he killed one of the railroad workers. And I couldn't let that happen to an innocent man." Lucas and Anna exchanged glances. "Where are the altered maps now?" Lucas demanded. "In Drummond's office in town, in his safe." "And you have access to this safe?" Tommy nodded slowly. "I'm his assistant. I have a key." Lucas paced, his mind clearly racing. "If we can get those altered maps and prove they were tampered with, we'd have our case," Anna finished. "It's too dangerous," Lucas said. "Drummond's not stupid. He'll have guards. Then we'll need to be smarter than his guards." "We?" He turned to her. "Anna, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm volunteering." She looked at Tommy. "Can you get us inside?" "Maybe, but if we're caught—" "We won't be caught," Anna said, with more confidence than she felt. "When does Drummond leave his office?" "Every night at 10. The building's empty after that, except for one night watchman." Lucas shook his head. "This is insane. We should take this to the authorities." "The authorities are bought," Anna reminded him. "You said so yourself. This is our only chance." For a long moment, Lucas stared at her, and she saw him weighing risks, calculating odds. Finally, he nodded. "Tomorrow night. But we do this my way, and if anything goes wrong, you run. You understand? You don't try to be a hero." "The same goes for you," Anna shot back. Something like pride flickered in his eyes. "Deal." The next day crawled by with excruciating slowness. Anna played her part, the devoted wife, tending the household matters, smiling and calm. But inside, her mind raced with possibilities, with everything that could go wrong. That evening, she dressed in dark colors, practical clothes instead of the silk dresses Lucas had bought her. When she came downstairs, she found him waiting, similarly dressed, a gun at his hip. "Last chance to back out," he said. "Not happening." Tommy was already waiting with the horses, his face pale but determined. The ride to town was silent, tense. The moon was a sliver in the sky, providing just enough light to navigate, but keeping them mostly hidden. Drummond's office was in the largest building on Main Street, 3 stories of brick and arrogance. True to Tommy's word, the place looked empty, just a single lamp burning in the night watchman's window on the ground floor. "There's a back entrance," Tommy whispered. "The watchman doesn't patrol that side until midnight." They tied the horses in an alley and approached carefully. Tommy's key turned smoothly in the lock, and they slipped inside. The building was eerily quiet, their footsteps muffled on expensive carpet. Drummond's office was on the 3rd floor, and every creak of the stairs made Anna's heart race. Finally, they reached the door. Tommy's hands shook as he worked the lock. "Take your time," Lucas murmured. The lock clicked open. Drummond's office was exactly what Anna expected. Opulent, ostentatious, designed to intimidate. The safe was behind a painting of some European landscape, obvious and arrogant. "He doesn't think anyone would dare," Lucas said quietly. Tommy knelt by the safe, worked the combination. When it swung open, Anna saw stacks of papers, deeds, contracts, and there, near the bottom, a leather folder marked Blackstone Survey, Revised. Lucas grabbed it, opened it, and his face went white. These bastards. They didn't just alter the maps. They forged my signature on a sale agreement. They were going to claim I'd already sold them the land and then reneged. "Take it," Anna urged. "We need to go." But as Lucas gathered the documents, a voice cut through the darkness. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." They spun to find Drummond standing in the doorway, a pistol in his hand. Behind him stood two of his men, both armed. "You know, Blackstone, I actually admired your little performance with the wife," Drummond said conversationally. "Very convincing. But breaking into my office? That's a criminal offense. I could have you arrested, tried, hanged." "You could try," Lucas said, his voice deadly calm. "But I have proof now. Proof of your fraud, your forgery. Even corrupt judges have limits." "Do they?" Drummond smiled. "Because I think you'll find that any evidence obtained through illegal means is inadmissible. And you've just committed burglary in front of witnesses." Anna's mind raced. They were trapped, outgunned, and Drummond was right. Even with the proof, they'd broken the law to get it. "But I'm a reasonable man," Drummond continued. "So here's what's going to happen. You'll give me those documents. You'll sign over the water rights voluntarily. And in exchange, I won't press charges. You'll keep your ranch, your freedom, and your pretty little wife. And if I refuse, then I shoot you for trespassing, your wife for being an accomplice, and young Tommy here for being a traitor. Self-defense, of course. 3 bodies. Very tragic." Anna saw Lucas's hand move toward his gun, saw Drummond's men raise their weapons. "Don't," she said sharply. "Lucas, don't." "Listen to your wife," Drummond advised. "She's smarter than you." Time seemed to slow. Anna looked at Lucas, saw the fury and helplessness warring in his eyes, saw him weighing his options, all of them bad. Then Tommy spoke up, his voice shaking but clear. "There's copies." Everyone turned to look at him. "What?" Drummond's face darkened. "I made copies of everything. The original surveys, the alterations, the forged signatures. I sent them to 3 different lawyers in 3 different cities, with instructions to release them to the newspapers if anything happened to me." Tommy's chin lifted. "So go ahead, shoot us. But by this time tomorrow, everyone will know what you did." It was a bluff. It had to be. The kid had been too scared, too uncertain. But Drummond didn't know that. Anna watched the calculation happen in the railroad man's eyes, saw him weighing risks, wondering if the boy was telling the truth. "You're lying," Drummond said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. "Am I?" Tommy pulled a receipt from his pocket. "Western Union, 3 telegrams sent this afternoon. Want to read them?" The standoff stretched, seconds feeling like hours. Finally, Drummond lowered his gun. "Get out." "What?" one of his men said. "I said get out, all of you." They didn't need to be told twice. Lucas grabbed the documents and they ran, down the stairs, out the back door, to the horses. They didn't stop riding until they were miles from town, until Blackstone Ranch rose before them in the darkness. Only then did they dismount, breathing hard, and Lucas grabbed Tommy by the shoulders. "Did you really send those telegrams?" Tommy grinned shakily. "No, sir. I bought stamps this afternoon and kept the receipt." But he didn't know that. Lucas laughed, the sound almost giddy with relief. "You brilliant, crazy kid." Then he turned to Anna, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her like a man who'd just faced death and found life on the other side. When they finally broke apart, he said, "Don't ever do something that reckless again." "You're one to talk." "I mean it, Anna. If something had happened to you." "But it didn't. We're safe. And we have the proof we need." He looked down at her, his expression fierce and tender and complicated. "We make a good team." "We do," she admitted. And in that moment, standing in the darkness, with stolen documents and racing hearts, Anna realized something that terrified her more than Drummond's gun ever could. She didn't want this to be temporary anymore. Didn't want to leave when the 4 months ended. Didn't want to go back to being alone. She wanted this dangerous, complicated man and the life they'd accidentally started building together. But wanting it and believing she could keep it were two very different things. But fear had a way of making people do stupid things, and Anna had spent too many years protecting herself to stop now. The morning after their break-in, she woke early and found Lucas already in the study, spreading the stolen documents across his desk. He looked up when she entered, and the warmth in his eyes made her chest ache. "We need to talk about last night," he said.
"We need to talk about these documents,"
she countered, moving to the desk instead of to him.
"How do we use them without admitting we stole them?"
His jaw tightened. "Anna."
"The trial is in 2 weeks. We need a strategy."
"Don't do this."
"Do what?"
"Retreat. That's what you're doing right now. Something real happened between us last night, and you're scared, so you're hiding behind business."
"I'm trying to save your ranch."
"My ranch isn't what needs saving right now." He came around the desk, caught her arm gently. "Talk to me. Really talk to me." Anna pulled away.
"There's nothing to talk about. We were running on fear and adrenaline. People do irrational things when they think they might die."
"Is that what the kiss was? Irrational?"
"Yes."
"You're lying again."
"Maybe I am, but it doesn't change anything. We still have a contract, an arrangement. Nothing about last night changes that."
Lucas's expression hardened. "You're right. Nothing changes unless we want it to. And clearly, you don't." He walked out, leaving Anna alone with the documents and the hollow ache in her chest. For 3 days, they barely spoke except about legal strategy. Lucas met with his lawyers, working on a way to introduce the evidence without incriminating themselves. Anna threw herself into household tasks, anything to avoid thinking about the look on Lucas's face when she'd pushed him away. But at night, lying alone in her room, she couldn't stop replaying that kiss, couldn't stop imagining what might have happened if she'd been brave enough to let it mean something. On the 4th day, Lucas's lawyer brought news. "We've found a solution," Robert Holloway said, spreading papers on the dining table. "Young Tommy is willing to testify. He'll say he stole the documents on his own, had a crisis of conscience about what Drummond was doing. You two had nothing to do with it." "That puts Tommy at risk," Anna said immediately. "The boy knows the risk. He's willing to take it." Lucas shook his head. "I won't let a kid take the fall for me." "It's not taking the fall if he's telling the truth," Holloway argued. "He did steal the documents. You just happened to be there when he retrieved them." "No one will believe that." "They will if we present it right. Tommy's just a scared kid who realized he was part of something corrupt. You're the upstanding rancher defending his property. The narrative works." Anna watched Lucas struggle with it, saw the conflict in his eyes. "There's another complication," Holloway continued. "Drummond's lawyers are calling witnesses, including a woman claiming to be your former fiancé, Lucas. Says you promised to marry her 3 years ago, then abandoned her. They're trying to paint you as someone with a pattern of deception." Lucas went very still. "Eleanor." "You know her?" "I knew her. We were never engaged. She was a banker's daughter from Denver, wanted a rich husband. When she realized I was more interested in building a ranch than attending society parties, she moved on. Well, now she's claiming you broke her heart and left her destitute. Drummond's using it to undermine your credibility, make you look like a man who lies and manipulates to get what he wants. Anna felt something cold settle in her stomach. When does she testify? 2 days before the trial. After Holloway left, Anna found Lucas in the barn, grooming his horse with aggressive strokes. You never mentioned an Eleanor, she said. Because there was nothing to mention. We courted for a few months. It didn't work out. That was 3 years ago. And now she's testifying against you. Drummond probably paid her. She always did have flexible morals when money was involved. Anna leaned against a stall door. Do you still have feelings for her? Lucas stopped grooming, turned to face her.
Is that really what you're asking?
I need to know what we're dealing with.
You need to know if I still love a woman I barely liked 3 years ago?
He laughed bitterly. No, Anna. I don't have feelings for Eleanor. I never did. She was beautiful and available, and I was lonely. That's all it was.
Then why did you court her?
Because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Find a suitable wife, settle down, build a dynasty, be the man everyone expected me to be. He moved closer. And then you walked through my door, desperate and proud and completely unsuitable by every social standard. And I realized I'd been lying to myself about what I actually wanted.
Lucas.
You want honesty? Here's honesty. I'm in love with you. Not the pretend wife you've been playing, but the real woman underneath. The one who's terrified of being hurt, who pushes me away every time I get close, who would rather run than risk believing this could be real. Anna's breath caught.
You don't know what you're saying.
I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying I want you to stay. Not because of money or contracts or business arrangements. Because I can't imagine waking up in this house without you in it. Because you make me want to be better than I am. Because when I thought Drummond might shoot you, I realized I'd burn this entire ranch to the ground if it meant keeping you safe. Tears stung Anna's eyes. Stop. Why? Because it scares you? Good. It scares me too. But I'm done pretending this is just an arrangement.
We had a deal.
Deals can be renegotiated.
I can't do this.
Anna's voice broke.
I can't let myself believe in something that might not last. I've lost too much, Lucas. I can't lose this too.
So you'd rather leave before you can be hurt? That's not bravery, Anna. That's cowardice. The words hit like a physical blow.
How dare you?
I dare because someone needs to tell you the truth.
You talk about being used, being hurt, but you're doing it to yourself now. You're throwing away something real because you're too afraid to fight for it.
You don't understand. Then make me understand. Tell me what you're so afraid of.
I'm afraid of needing you.
The confession exploded out of her.
I'm afraid of waking up one day and realizing I can't breathe without you, and then having you taken away like everything else I've ever cared about. I'm afraid of being that vulnerable, that dependent. I'm afraid of loving you and having it destroy me.
The silence that followed was deafening. Lucas closed the distance between them, cupped her face in his hands. You already love me. That's what you're really afraid of. You've already fallen, Anna, and you can't take it back no matter how far you run.
I hate you,
she whispered, but there was no force behind it. No, you don't. You hate that I'm right. He kissed her then, and Anna stopped fighting. She kissed him back with all the desperation and fear and longing she'd been trying to bury, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucas pressed his forehead to hers. Stay, he said roughly. Really stay. Choose this. Choose me.
I don't know if I can.
Then let me prove to you that you can. Let me show you that this is worth the risk. Before Anna could respond, one of the ranch hands burst into the barn. "Boss, riders coming. At least a dozen of them, and they're armed." Lucas grabbed his rifle, his expression going cold and focused. "Get to the house. Bar the doors." Anna followed him outside to see a line of horsemen approaching, Drummond at their head. "Blackstone!" Drummond called out. "We need to talk." "You can talk from there," Lucas shouted back, his rifle ready. "I'm here to make you an offer. A final offer." "I'm not interested." "You will be when you hear it." Drummond dismounted, walked forward with his hands raised. "I'm unarmed. Just talk." Lucas didn't lower his weapon. "You have 1 minute. Drop the lawsuit, sign over the water rights, and I'll make sure Eleanor's testimony never sees a courtroom. Her testimony is lies. I'm not afraid of it." "Aren't you?" Drummond smiled. "Because I have other witnesses too. People who'll testify that your marriage is a fraud, that you hired Anna to play a part, that this whole devoted wife routine is just another one of your manipulations." Anna felt the blood drain from her face. "You have no proof of that," Lucas said, but his voice was tight. "Don't I? I've had people watching you for weeks. I know Anna arrived here broke and desperate. I know you married suspiciously fast, with no family present. I know you've been keeping separate bedrooms." Drummond's smile widened. "It won't be hard to prove fraud, and fraud invalidates everything. Your legal standing, your contracts, your credibility. The judge will have no choice but to rule against you." "You're bluffing." "Am I? Ask your lovely wife. Ask her if she's ready to stand in a courtroom and swear under oath that your marriage is real. Because perjury is a crime, Blackstone. She could go to prison." Lucas looked at Anna, and she saw the calculation in his eyes, the fear. "You have until tomorrow," Drummond said. "Sign over the rights, admit the marriage was a business arrangement, and I'll let both of you walk away. Refuse, and I'll destroy you both in court." He mounted his horse and rode away, his men following. Anna stood frozen, her mind racing. Drummond was right. If they put her on the stand, if they made her testify about the marriage, she'd have two choices: lie under oath or tell the truth and destroy Lucas's case. "We knew this might happen," Lucas said quietly. "We planned for it." "Did we plan for me committing perjury, going to prison?" "You won't go to prison. I won't let that happen." "How exactly will you stop it? You can't control what a judge rules." "Then we make the marriage real," Lucas said. "We've been living as husband and wife for weeks now. We can claim the original arrangement changed, that we fell in love. It's not even a lie anymore." "But it started as a lie. That's what they'll focus on." "Anna, he's won, Lucas, don't you see? Even if we had a real marriage now, they'll prove it started as fraud, and fraud taints everything." "So what are you saying? We give up?" "I'm saying maybe you should take the deal. Sign over the water rights, admit I was hired, and save the ranch." Lucas stared at her. "You want me to throw you under the carriage? Admit you were just business to protect myself?" "I was just business. That was the arrangement." "That's not true anymore, and you know it." "It doesn't matter what I know. It matters what we can prove in court. And we can't prove that what we have now is real." "Then we'll find a way." "There is no way," Anna's voice rose. "This was always going to end badly. I knew it, you knew it. We just pretended we could outsmart fate. But Drummond's right. We can't win this." "I won't give up my land." "And I won't let you go to prison for fraud. One of us has to be smart about this." "Smart? You want to talk about smart? Smart would be fighting together instead of running scared." "I'm not running. I'm trying to protect you.
By leaving? By proving Drummond right that this was all fake?
It was fake. That's the truth, Lucas. We can dress it up however we want, but the foundation of this marriage is a lie. And lies always come out. Lucas grabbed her shoulders. You're doing it again. Pushing me away because you're scared. I'm doing what I should have done from the beginning. I'm being realistic. No, you're being a coward. You love me, but you won't fight for it because fighting means risking pain. And you love this ranch more than you love me. So don't pretend this is about us. This is about you not wanting to lose. The words hung between them, cruel and cutting. Lucas dropped his hands. Is that really what you think? That I care more about land than I do about you? Anna's throat tightened. I think you're a man who's built his entire identity on this place, and I think you'll do whatever it takes to keep it, even if it means sacrificing me. You're wrong. Am I? Then prove it. Take Drummond's deal. Let me go. No. Lucas, I said no. I won't sacrifice you to save the ranch. I won't admit our marriage was fraud. And I won't let you walk away thinking I don't love you more than I love this entire goddamn territory. Then what do you suggest? How do we win this? I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. Together. There is no together. Not really. We're two people pretending to be something we're not. Stop saying that. His voice was rough with emotion. Stop trying to make this smaller than it is. I love you, Anna. I'm in love with you. And I think you love me too. But you're so busy protecting yourself that you can't see what's right in front of you. What's in front of me is disaster. A trial we can't win. A marriage built on lies. And a man asking me to believe in fairy tales. This isn't a fairy tale. It's messy and complicated and terrifying. That's what real love is. I can't do this. Anna backed away. I can't stand here and pretend I'm brave enough for this. Then what are you going to do? Run? That's your answer to everything, isn't it? When things get hard, when people get close, you run. Maybe I do. But at least I don't lie to myself about what I am. And what are you, Anna? What do you think you are? I'm someone who survives. That's all I've ever been. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep surviving, even if it means leaving you. Lucas's face went cold. Then leave. If that's what you really want, go. I won't stop you. Lucas, but know this. When you walk out that door, you're not just leaving me. You're leaving the only real thing either of us has had in years. And you can tell yourself it's about survival, about protecting yourself. But we both know the truth. You're leaving because you're too afraid to believe you deserve to be loved. The words hit like bullets, each one finding its mark. Anna wanted to scream at him, to tell him he was wrong. But she couldn't force the words out because, deep down, she knew he was right. I should pack, she said quietly. You should fight, Lucas shot back. But you won't. Because that would require courage, and you've convinced yourself you don't have any. Anna turned and walked toward the house, her vision blurred with tears. Behind her, she heard Lucas punch something, heard the crack of wood, heard him curse. But she kept walking. Inside her room, she pulled out the small bag she'd arrived with, started folding the simple clothes she'd brought. The silk dresses Lucas had bought stayed in the wardrobe. They belonged to the woman she'd been pretending to be, not the woman she actually was. A knock at the door made her jump. Anna? It was Cook's voice. Can I come in? Anna opened the door. The older woman took one look at her and sighed. So, you're really leaving. How did you know? I've been watching you two dance around each other for weeks. Knew it would come to a head eventually. Cook sat on the bed. What happened? Drummond's going to prove the marriage is fraud. Lucas could lose everything. And you think leaving will help how? It's the only way to protect him. Cook gave her a long look. That's horse manure, and you know it. Excuse me? You're not leaving to protect Lucas. You're leaving because you're scared. Because he offered you something real, and you don't know how to handle it. That's not, child, I've known you all of 6 weeks, and I can see it clear as day. You love that stubborn man downstairs, and he loves you. But you'd rather run than risk having your heart broken. Anna's hands shook as she folded another dress. You don't understand. I understand plenty. I understand you've been hurt. I understand trusting people is hard when everyone you've ever trusted has let you down. But Lucas isn't them. He's not your father. He's not the men who used you. He's a good man who's offering you a life. A life built on lies. Every marriage starts with people pretending to be better than they are. You think my late husband didn't lie about loving my cooking when we first married? You think I didn't pretend to enjoy hunting stories? Love isn't about starting perfect. It's about choosing to make it real, despite the messy beginning. It's not that simple. It never is. But running away won't make it simpler. It'll just make you alone again. Anna sank onto the bed. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to believe in something that might not last. Nothing lasts forever, child. That's life. But you can't avoid living just because you're afraid of dying. What if I stay and lose him anyway? What if Drummond destroys us both? What if you leave and spend the rest of your life wondering what might have been? Cook stood, patted Anna's shoulder. Only you can decide what you can live with. But I'll tell you this. I've seen a lot of people pass through this ranch over the years. Never seen Lucas look at anyone the way he looks at you. Never seen him fight for anything the way he's fighting to keep you. That ought to mean something. After Cook left, Anna sat in the growing darkness, staring at her half-packed bag. Everything Cook said was true. Everything Lucas had said was true. She was running. She was scared. She was choosing loneliness over risk because loneliness was familiar, and love was terrifying. But knowing it and changing it were two different things. A commotion outside made her move to the window. Lucas was saddling his horse, his movements sharp and angry. She ran downstairs, out into the yard. Where are you going? To town, to talk to Holloway. At this hour? I'm not giving up, Anna, even if you are. He swung into the saddle. I'll find a way to beat Drummond, and when I do, you'll realize you threw away something real for nothing. Lucas, wait! But he was already gone, riding hard into the darkness. Anna stood alone in the yard, the wind cold against her face, and felt something crack inside her chest. She'd spent so many years protecting herself, building walls, keeping everyone at arm's length. And now, when someone finally wanted to knock those walls down, wanted to see the real her and love her anyway, she was pushing him away. Cook was right. Lucas was right. She was a coward. But cowards could change. They could choose to be brave, even when every instinct screamed at them to run. Anna went back inside, unpacked her bag, and sat down to wait for Lucas to come home. Because she'd made her choice. She was going to fight. She waited in the parlor, every minute stretching into eternity. Midnight came and went. 1 a.m. 2. When she finally heard hoofbeats, she ran to the door before Lucas could even dismount. He froze when he saw her. I thought you'd be gone. I unpacked. Why? Anna took a breath. Because Cook called me a coward, and she was right. Because you were right. Because I'm tired of running from the only real thing I've ever had. Lucas dismounted slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. Don't say that unless you mean it. I mean it. I'm terrified, Lucas. I'm terrified of losing you.
of this blowing up in our faces, of everything Drummond threatened.
But I'm more terrified of spending the rest of my life wondering what might have been if I'd been brave enough to stay. He closed the distance between them in 3 strides, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her like a drowning man finding air. When they broke apart, his hands framed her face. "Say it," he demanded. "Say what you've been avoiding."
"I love you."
The words came out shaky but real.
"I'm in love with you, and I don't know when it happened, but it did, and I can't take it back."
"Good, because I'm not letting you go. Not now, not ever." He kissed her again, softer this time. "We're going to beat Drummond. Together."
"How? What did Holloway say?"
Lucas's expression darkened. "He thinks our best chance is to make the marriage undeniably real before the trial. A public declaration, witnesses, the whole town knowing we're committed. Make it harder for Drummond to claim fraud."
"That's in 3 days."
"I know." Anna's mind raced. What kind of public declaration? A wedding, a real one, in front of everyone. We'd be renewing vows we never actually took, but no one needs to know that. And you think people will believe it? They will if we make it convincing enough. He paused. There's something else. Holloway found out who Drummond's other witnesses are. One of them is a woman named Margaret Hayes. The name meant nothing to Anna. Who is she? She worked at a boarding house in Denver 3 years ago. Claims she saw me with Eleanor, heard me propose marriage, heard me make promises I never kept. Is any of it true? I stayed at that boarding house when I was in Denver on business. I may have had dinner with Eleanor there once or twice, but I never proposed. Margaret either has a faulty memory or Drummond paid her to lie. Can we prove she's lying? Not easily. It's her word against mine. Lucas's jaw tightened. But there's more. Drummond's also calling the county clerk who issued our marriage license. He's going to question the timeline, the lack of proper waiting period, imply we rushed it to cover up the arrangement. Did we follow the law when we got the license? Technically, yes, but it looks suspicious. We appeared out of nowhere, married immediately, no family present. It fits Drummond's narrative too perfectly. Anna sank into a chair. So even if we have a second ceremony, they can still prove the first one was fraudulent. Unless we have witnesses who can testify that our relationship started before the legal marriage. People who saw us courting, saw us fall in love. But we don't have those witnesses because it didn't happen. Lucas began pacing. Then we create them. We find people willing to say they saw us together in Denver 6 months ago, that they knew we were corresponding, that our love story is real. You're asking people to commit perjury. I'm asking people to help us fight a man who's built his empire on lies and corruption. There's a difference. Is there? Anna stood. Lucas, I just decided to stop running. I can't start this new life by asking other people to lie for us. Then what do you suggest? Before Anna could answer, a knock at the door startled them both. Lucas grabbed his rifle, moved cautiously to the entrance. Who's there? Tommy Brennan, sir. I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Lucas opened the door to find the young man disheveled and bleeding from a cut above his eye. What happened? Anna rushed to get a cloth. Drummond found out I was planning to testify. His men came to my room, said if I took the stand, they'd make sure my mother lost her job at the hotel, that my sister would be fired from the dress shop. They said accidents happen to people who betray Mr. Drummond. Lucas's face went dark. Did they touch you? One of them did this. Tommy gestured to his eye. Said it was a warning. Next time would be worse. You're staying here tonight. Tomorrow we're filing assault charges. That won't work, sir. The sheriff's in Drummond's pocket. He'll say I started a fight, caused trouble. It'll just make things worse.
Anna cleaned Tommy's wound, her mind working. If Tommy can't testify without putting his family at risk, we lose our key witness. Which is exactly what Drummond wants, Lucas said grimly. There's something else, Tommy said quietly. I overheard Drummond talking to his lawyers. They're planning something bigger than just the trial. They're going to claim that because your marriage is fraudulent, all your business contracts tied to it are void, including the agreements you made with the other ranchers about water sharing. Lucas went very still. That would destroy the entire valley's irrigation system. That's the point. Drummond wants the other ranchers to turn against you.
If you're the reason they lose their water access, they'll pressure you to settle. Anna felt sick. How many ranchers are we talking about? At least a dozen families, maybe more. We need to warn them, Anna said. And tell them what? Lucas's voice was bitter. That I lied to everyone about my marriage, and now they're going to pay the price? They'll turn on me before Drummond even has to ask. Not if we tell them the truth first, on our terms. The truth will destroy us. The truth might be the only thing that saves us. Anna turned to him. What if we're approaching this wrong? What if instead of trying to hide the original arrangement, we admit it? We say yes, it started as a business deal, but it became real. We own the messy beginning and show them what we have now. That's insane. Is it? Right now, Drummond controls the narrative. He's going to expose us anyway. But if we expose ourselves first, we take away his power. Lucas stared at her. You want to stand in front of the entire town and admit we lied? I want to stand in front of them and tell them we fell in love, that sometimes the best things start in unexpected ways, that what matters isn't how it began, but what it became. They'll crucify us. Maybe. Or maybe they'll understand that love isn't always neat and proper, that sometimes it's messy and complicated, and starts in all the wrong ways. Anna grabbed his hands. You said you wanted to fight together. This is how we fight, with truth, not more lies. Tommy cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I think she's right. People in this town have known you for years, Mr. Blackstone. They've seen you build this ranch, help your neighbors, keep your word. If you're honest with them, some will be angry, but most will see that you're a good man who made a hard choice. Lucas looked between them, conflict written across his face. And if I'm wrong? If they turn on us? Then we'll face it together, Anna said simply. The silence stretched. Finally, Lucas nodded. All right, we tell the truth, but we do it my way. We call a town meeting, get everyone together, and we lay it all out before Drummond can twist it. When? Tomorrow night. That gives us 1 day before the trial to control the damage. Anna's stomach twisted with fear, but she forced herself to nod. Then we'd better figure out what we're going to say. They spent the rest of the night preparing, writing and rewriting their story, practicing how to present the truth in a way that was honest but not self-destructive. By dawn, Anna was exhausted, but clearer than she'd been in weeks. Lucas went to send word about the town meeting. Anna tried to rest, but couldn't. Her mind kept replaying worst-case scenarios, imagining the anger and judgment they'd face. Around noon, Cook found her in the kitchen.
You look like hell,
The older woman said bluntly. I feel like it.
Heard about the town meeting? That took guts.
Or stupidity. I'm not sure which yet. Cook started making tea.
I want to tell you something about my late husband.
Anna waited.
When Henry and I married, I was already pregnant with another man's child. A man who'd promised to marry me, then left town when he found out. Henry knew. He married me anyway, claimed the baby as his own, and never told a soul the truth.
Anna's eyes widened.
I had no idea. Nobody did. We kept that secret for 37 years. And you know what? It poisoned us. Every time we argued, every time things got hard, that lie sat between us like a wall. We loved each other, but we could never fully trust each other because our marriage was built on deception. What are you saying? I'm saying you and Lucas are doing the right thing. Starting with a lie might have been necessary, but continuing with one will destroy you.
Better to face the truth now and build something real than spend your lives wondering when the foundation will crack. Anna hugged the older woman, tears stinging her eyes. Thank you. That evening, the town hall was packed. Every rancher, shopkeeper, and family in the territory seemed to have shown up, curiosity and suspicion written on their faces. Anna stood beside Lucas at the front, her hand clasped tightly in his, and felt the weight of dozens of eyes on them. Lucas cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. I know there are rumors circulating about my marriage, about my business dealings with the railroad. I asked you here tonight because I want you to hear the truth from me, not from Charles Drummond's lawyers. The crowd murmured, suspicious. 4 months ago, Anna walked into my life at a time when I was facing pressure from Montana Central Railroad to sell my water rights. They were using every dirty trick in the book: fraudulent surveys, bribed officials, legal manipulation. And I knew that part of their strategy was to paint me as unstable, unmarried, not invested in the community's future. He paused, looked at Anna. She squeezed his hand. So I made a decision. I asked Anna to pretend to be my wife. I offered her money, a contract, a business arrangement, and she agreed. The murmurs grew louder, some people standing. Let me finish, Lucas said, his voice carrying. Yes, it started as a lie. Yes, I deceived you all, and I'm not proud of that. But what happened after, that was real. He turned to face Anna fully. This woman walked into my house, desperate and alone, and she agreed to play a part to help a stranger. But over the weeks and months, something changed. She stopped being an employee and became my partner. She stopped pretending to care about this ranch and actually cared. And somewhere along the way, I stopped pretending to love her and actually fell in love with her. Anna's eyes filled with tears. Drummond is going to take this into court tomorrow, Lucas continued, addressing the crowd again. He's going to use our deception to destroy my credibility, void my contracts, and take my water rights. And if he succeeds, it won't just hurt me, it'll hurt all of you. Every agreement we've made about irrigation, about land access, about shared resources, all of it becomes questionable if he can prove fraud. So you lied to us, and now we're supposed to pay for it? A voice called out from the back. It was Samuel Morrison, one of the larger landowners. No, I'm asking you to judge me on my actions, not my methods. Have I ever broken my word to any of you? Have I ever failed to honor an agreement? Have I ever put my interests above this community's? Silence. I'm not asking you to approve of how my marriage started, Lucas said. I'm asking you to look at what it became, to see that Anna is my wife in every way that matters, and that what we're fighting for isn't just my ranch. It's the principle that a man's word and his actions should count for more than legal technicalities manipulated by corrupt railroad barons. Anna stepped forward, her voice shaking but clear. I know you don't know me. I'm not from here. I don't have family or history in this territory. But I want you to know that when I agreed to help Lucas, I didn't expect to fall in love with him. I didn't expect to care about this ranch, this community, this life. But I do. And I'm standing here telling you the truth because I'd rather face your judgment honestly than hide behind more lies. An older woman in the front row stood. Anna recognized her as Mrs. Patterson, who owned the general store. I've known Lucas Blackstone for 15 years, she said. And I've never seen him look at a woman the way he looks at you, Mrs. Blackstone. Fake marriage or not, what I see between you is real. That doesn't excuse the deception, Morrison argued. Doesn't it, Mrs. Patterson turned to face him. Samuel, when you needed money to save your ranch 5 years ago, who loaned it to you with no interest and no deadline? When the winter was harsh and your cattle were dying, who opened his land to give you grazing room? Lucas Blackstone, that's who. So maybe he made a questionable choice about his marriage, but his character isn't in question. Not to me. Others began speaking up, some defending Lucas, some angry about the deception. The meeting threatened to devolve into chaos. Then a new voice cut through the noise. I think we're asking the wrong question. Everyone turned to see Eleanor standing at the back of the hall, elegant and composed. Anna's stomach dropped. The question isn't whether Lucas Blackstone is a good man, Eleanor continued, walking down the center aisle. We all know he is. The question is whether Mrs. Blackstone is the opportunist she appears to be. Lucas stepped forward. Eleanor. I'm sorry, Lucas, but someone needs to say it. This woman appeared out of nowhere, convinced you to marry her for money, and now claims she fell in love with you? It's convenient, isn't it? Especially now that your ranch is worth so much more than when she arrived. That's not what happened, Anna said, her voice tight. Isn't it? You admitted you took money to play a part. How do we know you're not still playing a part? How do we know this sudden love confession isn't just another scheme to secure your position? The crowd murmured agreement. Anna felt her carefully built courage crumbling. Eleanor was right. It did look suspicious. It did seem calculated, and she had no way to prove otherwise. But then Lucas put his arm around her waist, pulled her close. You want to know how I know Anna loves me? He said, his voice carrying. Because she tried to leave. 3 days ago, when Drummond threatened her with prison for perjury, when staying meant risking everything, she tried to walk away to protect me. She was willing to give up the money, the security, the life she'd built here, all of it, to keep me safe. That's not opportunism, Eleanor. That's love. He turned to the crowd. She could have taken Drummond's deal. She could have testified that our marriage was fake, walked away with immunity, and probably a payout from the railroad. But she didn't. She chose to stay and fight beside me, even though it might cost her everything. You tell me if that sounds like a woman who's using me. Eleanor's composure cracked. You have no idea what you've got, do you? I could have given you connections, status, a real partnership. But you chose a nobody, a con artist. I chose the woman I love, Lucas said flatly. And I'm done justifying that to you or anyone else. Yes, our marriage started as an arrangement. Yes, we lied. But we're here now, telling the truth, and asking this community to judge us on who we are today, not how we started. Drummond will destroy you in court, Eleanor said coldly. Maybe, but we'll face it together. Can you say the same about any relationship you've ever had? The words hung in the air, sharp and final. Eleanor's face flushed with anger and humiliation. She turned and walked out, her footsteps echoing in the silent hall. Morrison stood again. I have a question for Mrs. Blackstone. Anna's heart pounded. Yes? Do you love my neighbor, or do you love his money? The question was brutal and direct. Anna looked at Lucas, then back at Morrison. 3 months ago, I would have said I loved the security his money could buy. I'd spent so long being poor, being desperate, that I couldn't imagine choosing anything over survival. But Lucas taught me that there are things worth more than security. He taught me that partnership matters, that integrity matters, that fighting for what's right matters, even when it's hard. So yes, I love him. Not his money, not his ranch, not what he can give me. I love the man who rides out at dawn to check on his cattle, who helps his neighbors without asking for anything in return, who's willing to lose everything rather than compromise his principles. That's who I fell in love with. And if we lose the trial, if Drummond takes every acre and every dollar, I'll still be standing beside Lucas, because that's what love is. The silence that followed felt endless. Then Mrs. Patterson started clapping. Slowly, others joined her. Not everyone. Some people walked out, angry and unconvinced. But enough stayed, enough applauded, enough showed support. After the meeting, Lucas and Anna stood alone in the empty hall. "That went better than I expected," Lucas said. "Eleanor showing up was a nightmare. Actually, she helped us." Her bitterness made our story more believable. Anna leaned against him. "Tomorrow's going to be brutal." "I know." "What if we lose?" "Then we lose, but at least we'll lose honestly." He tilted her face up. "No more secrets between us. No more lies. From here on out, it's just truth." "Just truth," Anna echoed. He kissed her, and for a moment the fear of the coming trial faded. But as they rode home in the darkness, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was still ahead. The trial would determine their fate, but more than that, it would test whether the love they'd built on a foundation of lies could survive the harsh light of truth. And tomorrow, they'd find out. The courthouse was already packed when they arrived the next morning, townspeople filling every seat, whispering behind hands, their eyes following Anna and Lucas as they made their way to the front. Drummond sat at the opposing table, perfectly composed. Eleanor beside him, looking like a woman who'd already won. Judge Harlan entered, a stern man with silver hair and cold eyes. Anna's stomach sank when she saw him. This was the judge Holloway had warned them about, the one with rumored ties to the railroad. "All rise," the bailiff called. The trial began with Drummond's lawyer, a sharp-faced man named Whitmore, laying out their case with surgical precision. "Your Honor, we will prove that Lucas Blackstone engaged in deliberate fraud by hiring a woman to pose as his wife for the sole purpose of manipulating business negotiations. This fraudulent marriage invalidates all contracts tied to his marital status, including critical water rights agreements that affect this entire territory." Lucas's hand found Anna's under the table, squeezed hard. Whitmore called his first witness, the county clerk who'd issued their marriage license. "Mr. Dawson, can you describe the circumstances under which you issued the marriage license for Lucas Blackstone and Anna Whitmore?" The clerk shifted uncomfortably. "They came in together, filled out the paperwork, paid the fee. Standard procedure." "And did anything about their behavior strike you as unusual?" "Well, they seemed in a hurry. Didn't have the usual family with them. No witnesses. The lady's hands were shaking when she signed." Anna felt heat rise in her cheeks. "And Mr. Blackstone seemed nervous?" "Objection," Holloway said. "Calls for speculation about my client's emotional state." "Sustained," the judge said. But the damage was done. The image was planted. A rushed, suspicious marriage with trembling hands and no witnesses. Eleanor was called next, and Anna watched her glide to the stand with practiced grace. "Miss Thornton, can you describe your relationship with Mr. Blackstone?" "We courted for several months, 3 years ago." Lucas was attentive, romantic, spoke often of marriage and building a life together. "Did he propose?" Eleanor's eyes glistened with manufactured tears. "Yes, he said I was the woman he'd been waiting for, that together we could build an empire. I believed him." "And then what happened?" "He left Denver without a word. I later heard he'd married some unknown woman in a rushed ceremony. It was devastating." Anna felt Lucas tense beside her. "Your witness," Whitmore said. Holloway stood, his expression carefully neutral. "Miss Thornton, do you have any documentation of this proposal? A letter, a ring, any physical evidence?" "Lucas wasn't the type to write things down." "How convenient. And when exactly did this proposal occur?"
3 years ago. June, I believe."
"You believe?" Holloway pulled out a paper. Because hotel records show that Mr. Blackstone was in Denver exactly twice 3 years ago. Once in March for 4 days, once in October for 2 days. Neither visit was in June. Eleanor's composure cracked slightly. I may have misremembered the month. Misremembered or fabricated entirely? Holloway pressed. Tell me, Miss Thornton, how much did Charles Drummond pay you to testify today? Objection! Whitmore leaped up. Withdrawn, Holloway said smoothly. But I notice you didn't answer. Eleanor was dismissed, her testimony undermined, but not destroyed. Margaret Hayes was called next, the boarding house keeper. I saw them together many times, she testified, Mr. Blackstone and Miss Thornton. He was clearly courting her, making promises about their future. And you heard him propose marriage? I did, in the boarding house parlor. He said she was the only woman who could make him happy. Holloway's cross-examination was swift. Mrs. Hayes, you've owned your boarding house for how long? 15 years. And in those 15 years, how many proposals have you witnessed in your parlor? Several. Several? And you remember the specific words of each one? Well, no, but yet you remember Mr. Blackstone's proposal word for word from 3 years ago? Margaret faltered. It was memorable, or it was scripted. Holloway pulled out a bank record. This shows a deposit of $500 to your account 2 weeks ago. Who gave you that money, Mrs. Hayes? The woman's face went pale. That was from a loan. From whom? A private lender. The Montana Central Railroad's legal fund, perhaps? Objection! Whitmore shouted. The judge sustained it, but again the seed was planted. After the lunch recess, Whitmore played his strongest card. The defense calls Anna Blackstone to the stand. Anna's heart stopped. Lucas grabbed her hand. You don't have to do this, he whispered. Yes, I do. She walked to the stand on shaking legs, placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. Whitmore circled her like a predator. Mrs. Blackstone, how much money did your husband pay you to pretend to be his wife? Anna took a breath. $10,000. That was the original agreement. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. $10,000. Quite a sum. And what were your duties in exchange for this payment? To attend social functions? To present myself as his wife in public? To help him appear stable and settled to business rivals? So you were, in essence, an actress he hired to play a role? Initially, yes. Initially? Whitmore pounced. Are you saying that changed? Yes. When? Anna looked directly at Lucas. I don't know the exact moment. Maybe it was when he stitched up my boots without being asked. Maybe it was when he listened to my stories about Philadelphia and didn't judge me. Maybe it was the night we broke into Drummond's office and I realized I'd risk prison to help him. But somewhere between the contract and now, I stopped pretending. How convenient that this change of heart occurred precisely when your financial arrangement was threatened. It wasn't convenient. It was terrifying. Why terrifying? Because falling in love with Lucas meant risking everything I'd spent years protecting myself from. It meant being vulnerable, being dependent, being able to be hurt, and I'd sworn I'd never let anyone have that power over me again. Whitmore smiled coldly. You're quite good at this, Mrs. Blackstone, playing the reformed woman, the sincere wife. But the truth is, you saw an opportunity to secure a wealthy husband, and you took it. No. No? You didn't accept money from my client? I accepted money, yes, but I didn't scheme to keep it. 3 days ago, when Drummond threatened me, I tried to leave. I packed my things, ready to walk away from everything, because I thought leaving was the only way to protect Lucas. That's not the action of a woman chasing wealth. Or it's the action of a woman who knows when to cut her losses and run. Objection, Holloway said. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. But Whitmore wasn't done. Mrs. Blackstone, do you love your husband for himself or for what he can provide? Anna's throat tightened. I love him because he's the first person who ever saw me as more than my circumstances. Because he's stubborn and principled and sometimes infuriatingly righteous. But he's also kind and lonely and brave. I love him because when I'm with him, I'm not afraid of being myself. And I'd love him if he lost every acre of this ranch, every dollar in his accounts, everything. Because what we have isn't about money. It never was, not really. The courtroom was silent. Whitmore tried a few more questions, but Anna could see she'd shaken him. When she was dismissed, Lucas met her eyes, and in them she saw pride and love and fear all mixed together. Then it was Lucas's turn. He took the stand with his head high, his voice steady. Mr. Blackstone, Whitmore began, you admit you hired Mrs. Blackstone to deceive people about your marital status? Yes. And you used this deception to negotiate business deals, to gain advantage over rivals, to present yourself as someone you were not. Yes. Do you have any remorse for these actions? Lucas was quiet for a moment. I have regret that I felt deception was necessary. But no, I don't regret asking Anna to help me fight a corrupt railroad company that was trying to steal land through fraud and bribery. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. Noble words, but the truth is, you're a liar who manipulated everyone around you. I lied about my marriage. I didn't lie about my character, my work, or my commitments to this community. Every contract I signed, I honored. Every promise I made, I kept. The only deception was about my personal life. And I'm here now telling you the truth about it. Only because you were caught? No, because I fell in love with my wife and realized that hiding that love behind a business arrangement was the real fraud. Whitmore pulled out the fraudulent survey documents. Let's talk about these. Documents that mysteriously appeared after a break-in at Mr. Drummond's office. Documents you claim prove fraud on the railroad's part. They do prove fraud. Or they prove you were desperate enough to forge evidence. Those documents are authentic. Tommy Brennan can testify. Mr. Brennan? Your employee? Hardly an unbiased witness. The trial dragged on for hours. Witness after witness, document after document. By the time the judge called for closing arguments, Anna's head was pounding. Whitmore went first, painting Lucas as a calculating liar who deceived everyone for profit. Then Holloway stood. Your Honor, this case isn't about whether Lucas Blackstone made an unconventional choice in how he married. It's about whether a corrupt railroad company gets to destroy a man's livelihood because they're upset that their own fraud was exposed. Yes, Mr. Blackstone hired Anna Whitmore to pose as his wife. But what the prosecution hasn't mentioned is why. The Montana Central Railroad has spent 2 years trying to steal his water rights through forged surveys, bribed officials, and legal manipulation. Mr. Blackstone fought back the only way he knew how. He held up the survey documents. These papers prove that Drummond's company fabricated evidence, altered legal documents, and attempted to frame my client for assault. That's the real crime here. Everything else is distraction. The judge listened, his face unreadable. I'll take this under advisement, he said finally. We'll reconvene tomorrow for my ruling. That night, Anna and Lucas sat in their parlor, exhausted and hollow. I can't tell which way it'll go, Lucas said. Neither can I. If we lose, we'll face it together.
That's what you said, remember?
He pulled her close. I meant it. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm not letting you go. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. They fell asleep on the sofa, wrapped around each other. And for the first time in weeks, Anna felt peace. The next morning, the courtroom was even more packed. The judge entered, his expression grave. "I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony," he began. "This is a complicated case involving allegations of fraud on both sides." Anna held her breath. "After careful consideration, I find that while Mr. Blackstone's marriage began under unconventional circumstances, there is insufficient evidence to prove ongoing fraud. The testimony from both Mr. and Mrs. Blackstone demonstrates genuine affection and partnership. Their public admission of the original arrangement, rather than continuing to hide it, speaks to their credibility." Hope flickered in Anna's chest. "However," the judge continued, "I also find that the survey documents presented by the defense, while potentially authentic, were obtained through illegal means. As such, they cannot be admitted as evidence in this proceeding." Lucas's hand tightened on Anna's. "That said," the judge's expression shifted slightly, "I am deeply troubled by the testimony regarding the Montana Central Railroad's business practices. I am referring this matter to the Territorial Attorney General for investigation into possible criminal fraud." Drummond's face darkened. "As for the water rights dispute, I find no legal basis for the railroad's claim. Mr. Blackstone's original land surveys were properly filed and recorded. The marriage issue is irrelevant to the validity of those claims. Case dismissed." The courtroom erupted. Anna turned to Lucas, saw shock and relief warring on his face.
"We won?"
she whispered. "We won." They held each other while chaos swirled around them, while Drummond argued furiously with his lawyers, while townspeople cheered or grumbled, depending on their allegiances. Outside the courthouse, Lucas pulled Anna into a fierce kiss. "I love you," he said against her lips. "I love you, and I'm never letting you doubt it again." "I love you too, even when you're infuriatingly righteous." He laughed, the sound free and joyful. 3 months later, Anna stood in the same church where they'd held the town meeting, wearing a simple white dress Cook had helped her make. This time, when Lucas took her hand and promised to love and cherish her, when she promised the same in return, every word was true. Tommy stood as Lucas's best man, grinning like he'd won a prize. Mrs. Patterson cried happy tears from the front pew. Even some of the ranchers who'd been skeptical at the trial had come to witness their real wedding. Eleanor was notably absent, having left town shortly after the trial ended. Drummond had disappeared too, facing federal fraud charges that would likely see him in prison. But Anna didn't think about them. She only thought about Lucas, about the life they were building together, about the ranch that was now truly theirs. At the reception, Samuel Morrison approached them, his expression grudging but sincere. "I owe you an apology, Blackstone. Both of you. I was quick to judge, and I was wrong." "No apology needed," Lucas said. "You were looking out for your family. I respect that." Morrison nodded, then turned to Anna. "Welcome to Montana, Mrs. Blackstone. The real Mrs. Blackstone." After he left, Anna leaned against her husband. "Think we'll ever live this down?" "Probably not, but I don't care. Let them talk." "Lucas Blackstone not caring what people think? Who are you and what did you do with my husband?" He kissed her temple. "You changed me. Made me realize that what matters isn't what people think of us, but what we know to be true." A year later, Anna stood in the nursery they'd built, holding their daughter, and marveled at how much had changed. The ranch was thriving, the railroad investigation had exposed corruption throughout the territory, and their marriage had become something neither of them had imagined that first desperate day. Lucas came in, wrapped his arms around both of them. "She has your eyes," he said softly, "and your stubborn chin." "God help us," Anna laughed, then grew serious. "Do you ever regret how we started?"
Never. You know why? Why? Because if we'd met any other way, we might not have fought so hard to keep it. The fact that we had to choose this, had to work for it, had to overcome everyone's doubts, including our own, that made it stronger. We're not together because it was easy. We're together because we decided it was worth fighting for.
Anna kissed him. Their daughter nestled between them and thought about all the roads that had led to this moment. The desperation, the lies, the fear, the courage, the love. Sometimes the best things in life started in the wrong ways, with the wrong reasons, at the wrong time. But if you were brave enough to fight for them, if you were honest enough to admit when something fake became real, if you were strong enough to choose love over safety, then those wrong beginnings could transform into the rightest thing you'd ever done. And as Anna looked at her husband, at their daughter, at the life they'd built from lies and turned into truth, she knew with absolute certainty that she'd make the same choice again, every single time. Because what they had now was worth every risk, every fear, every moment of doubt. This love, this partnership, this family they'd fought so hard to claim was the realest, truest, most beautiful thing either of them had ever known.